Hi guys, welcome to Extra Talk. Of course, today it's all about the January transfer window of Ajax. Everybody was hoping the last day, maybe Bergwijn, maybe somebody else, but we're going to talk about it today. We got Rick from Australia. Good morning to you.
Good morning.
We got EyeJax. Hi, EyeJax.
Hi guys.
Hi. So guys, in general, before we start talking, about the player specifically, how would you rate this January transfer window? I mean, if you rate it from 1 till 10, what would be your grade? And please also explain why would you give him this grade? I will start with Rick, of course.
I'll probably give it a 7. We weren't too busy, to be honest. We spent a lot of time chasing Bergwijn and trying to chase someone out of the EPL. It's always going to be a higher price. So we weren't prepared to give him our record transfer fee. And so to Ajax, he wasn't actually worth that much, even though we tried to chase him. But apart from that, we got 2 loans, Brian Broby, who definitely filled in very well until he got injured against PSV. But I believe he would have given a lot more of dynamic up in the front 3, apart from Sebastian Haller. But I don't know too much about EyeJax. I know he's been injured for the majority of the season so far that he was with Sampdoria. But, where he fits in with our squad going forward, I'm not sure. But we were too busy. We sold Neres for 15 million. And I did mention that in our last talk with Sporting that, potentially he would go in this window. So getting 15 million for him is probably the best what we could hope for.
Okay, I will come back to you on the Neres as well. So we're going to be a bit more specific on the names that you just mentioned. EyeJax, what's your take? What's your grade about this transfer?
Believe it or not, Juan, but I had a 7 in mind also. So,
come on, guys. All right.
Rick also said 7, but yeah, I also had 7 in mind. And that's because I think it's great by Overmars that he has his priority targets. And if it doesn't happen, if it is not possible or they demand too much, that he does not give in, for me that I'm not a big fan of Bergwijn, but also not opposed of him coming because I think he's a quality player. So I'm somewhere in between. But I think it's a great business from Overmars that he's not willing to give in to too much of a demand in transfer fee.
Yeah. And, so let me jump in just quickly, also for our viewers. So the report said that Ajax was prepared to go maybe max 22 million, and Ajax thought in earlier stages in January that Spurs was going for 25 million, and then at the end of the transfer, Spurs said no, we want 30 million, and on top of the transfer fee, which we're talking about. We also have to cover his full salary, which is 6.5 million. And according to the reports, he doesn't want to go lower than that. So we would then have to pay 30 million as a transfer fee and 6.5 million gross salary a year, which would make him, the best earner in the squad. So that's a little bit the reports behind it. Please continue.
It's too much, in my opinion, and I stand behind Overmars for not willing to pay this amount. And next to that, we signed, like Rick said, we signed Robbie on a loan. The only sad thing about that one is that there's not a buy clause in the loan agreement, and I'm a little bit afraid that could bite us in the ass at the end of the season. So the grade would have been way higher if Overmars was able to secure this fee to buy him after the loan. Yeah. So this is the only negative thing I can think of, because I think the Neres deal was a great deal. 50 million for him in his form. He didn't have a very long contract left, I think. So at least we got the feedback that we maybe paid for him initially. So that's great, and I do think the Brobbey is a great asset to the team. Aside from the permanent option that we can buy him, he's a great player. So it's unfortunate that he got injured, and the striker position is the position with the least players within our squad that can play that position well, because I think Danilo is just not an Ajax 1 striker, not up to speed to replace Haller quality-wise.
Yeah,
but
but according to Ten
yeah.
Hag, Danilo is the deadliest striker in the box.
Yeah.
No, I'm serious. That's what he said a couple of
he is that fox in the box, but only in cup games, you know, like against amateurs.
Okay.
So like how do you call him, Lewandowski, scoring 4 goals, you know. But I do think that it's a great transfer window so far. I also stand behind Overmars not falling back to a plan B if he's not totally convinced of it, or it will be another panic buy. And most of the panic buys in the past with Ajax were not that great of buy, except for Ziyech, I think, and the last several years. Yeah. So I think a 7 is a great grade for this transfer window. And I think it's we have sufficient players to cover up several spots in the team if necessary, because everybody's saying, a lot of fans are saying on Twitter and online, that we should have got at least somebody for Neres. But in my opinion, you can still move Berghuis to the right position, so that you have both Anthony and Berghuis if necessary. You still have Klaassen. If Kudus come back, he also can play 10, and you can play Univar there as a third player behind those two. So the 10 position can be easily filled in by those 3 players if Berghuis is needed on the right winger position. The only thing is now with the Robbie injury is that you have a little bit less of players that can play in the striker position. But fortunately, Haller got eliminated within the Africa Cup, so he's probably back in time to take that striker role again. And otherwise, you always have Tadic to back him up. So yeah, 7 for me, you have 1.
Rick, would you like to react on what EyeJax just said?
I think with Bergwijn, like if he was to come in and he's going to be the most expensive paid player, who does he take over? I mean, you've got Tadic on the left, you've got Anthony on the right, and they're both in great form. So, and Bergwijn would just expect to walk into the squad and be in the front 3. So who do you take out there? You know, that's another thing of the dynamic of the squad as well. So to me, like, yeah, it would have been a great purchase, but I don't think this window would have been the right time for it anyway. So to me, it was a good thing that Overmars stood his ground and didn't pay that fee, because at the end of the day, you're going to disrupt a very dynamic front 3 that works very well.
Yeah. The thing, right, that surprised me is that we have been going for Bergwijn for quite some time already, and something tells me that it might happen again in the summer. I also think that Bergwijn is a little bit somebody that they're buying for the long term, because according to the reports, they were planning on buying him and offering him a 5-year contract. So it means that either they see him as maybe a substitute for Anthony, or maybe somebody who will grow into the team as a number 10, who knows? But they're looking at the long term, and they think Bergwijn would fit in that role. And looking at the past, looking at now that we tried again, I'm pretty certain in summer, depending on the situation, of course, in which he is in at that time, I think we will go for him again. I want to touch.
Well, the summer sounds more like a better time to have that done than it does right now, to me anyway.
Yeah. You know what surprises me a little bit as well? I mean, I just, right before this recording, because we're recording on a Tuesday, there was an interview with Overmars. I will tweet that later, by the way, the translation. But something that's, the thing for me, the takeaway was that it's not like he said that, okay, they want 30 million. He didn't specify that, but they said like, okay, they are difficult, Tottenham to buy players from. But we didn't at this time with the Corona in 2 years' time, etc. We don't want to take that risk right now. That's what he said. We don't want to take the risk right now. So basically, he's leaving, the option open to come back again. And not only that, if the reports are true and it's 30 million, it means that as Ajax, for us, the 30 million is no longer an obstacle. I mean, I'm not saying he's going to pay up the 30 million. But if you look at the reports and you look at how he reacted, 25 million transfer fee for players, if they're really quality, I mean, it's not a problem anymore. If we can, justify it. How do you guys see that? Do you guys think do you guys think, okay, we should go along with these crazy transfer fees to be a Champions League team, or you guys think we should be careful here? Rick, I want to ask this question to you first.
I think these transfers are going to become more and more frequent with Ajax, and us being in the Champions League, us getting that cash deposit for qualifying and making the knockout stages and things like that. For us to maintain that quality of play and the quality of team to keep making the knockout stages, we need to look at these transfers more frequently than we have in the past, where we've relied on youth and within the Eredivisie and building those players up as Champions League quality teams. I fear for our youth coming forward because, like I said, these transfers to maintain this Champions League quality are going to become more frequent. And 30 million, say, by the summer may be a record transfer, but 2-3 seasons down the track, I can see it maybe a 40 or a 50 million, depending on how big our team needs to be to maintain the quality to reach the knockout stages of the Champions League. We're no longer just an Eredivisie team that we were in the 2000s, where we are striving to make the quarterfinals or the semi-finals now. And that's the kind of thing that's, going to drive the success of the team going forward, I believe.
Yeah. EyeJax, do you agree?
Most of what Rick has said makes a lot of sense. So yes, I have some additions to his story though. I do think these kind of transfers are definitely necessary to keep up the high level, but I do think it should be a player that immediately would be a first team player. And I also have my doubts where he would have been, where Ten Hag would have played him if he would have come like in this transfer window. And it would have been bad for maybe Anthony or another player that should maybe take the bench if they see him as a first team player, or he would have been on the bench until he could prove his quality, But this is a bad thing. I think 30 million for that kind of player with that role is too much. And also, I do have a little bit of doubt in my mind that we've been after Bergwijn so many times now, and still he's apparently claiming 6.5 million. And he's a bench player at Tottenham Hotspur. I do think this is kind of ridiculous, him asking that kind of amount for the Eredivisie standards. And I do think the 30 million kind of or 25 million kind of transfers are okay, because I think we can afford them as long as we are still being dominating the Eredivisie, because you will be in the group stage of the Champions League, and if you perform well there, you can keep this cycle going. Yeah. So this is very important, but I do not think that you should pay 6.5 million salary for a player like him.
Okay, understood. Look, if we look at the January transfer window, we touched upon Bergwijn, right? A couple of things happened. You guys already mentioned it. Mo Ihataren, basically not a direct player for the first team. He will have his chance. You touched upon it, Rick. He was injured. More a lot of things, combination of things, injury, not being fit, not being motivated, lost touch a little bit with himself. And now Ajax is basically granting him an opportunity to come to young Ajax for a year, try to work himself up, and if everything goes well next year, we will buy him perhaps for 2 million, which is crazy if we look back at how talented he is. So we look at this. We look also at the other side of the coin, Tagliafico. I mean, it was until the very end of the transfer window, we weren't sure whether Tagliafico will stay, yes or no, but we know he wanted to go to Barca, but Barcelona wanted him only on the loan. And Ajax said, no, we cannot do that. We want to sell him basically. There are a couple of things that happened. We sold Neres, as you guys mentioned. Which transfers for you, or what would you name in this transfer window that stood out for you in a positive way? What are you most happy about, EyeJax?
First of all, I'm most happy about Overmars and his way of handling stuff, because I do think he's done a great job, even with Bergwijn not going to full transfer. Like we discussed before, this is also strong of him, like not just paying whatever they want, just being firm. But also, I do want to discuss the Ihataren deal, because I think it's a very great deal, and I believe Mo is still 19 years old. Yes. And I do have to tell and talk about this, because this guy has been through a lot. He was terrific when he was playing under Mark van Bommel, the former PSV legend and PSV coach. And he really made him play well. And we were all impressed by him, what he showed within the Eredivisie. So for Overmars to be able to secure this deal, I think it's a very great business of him, because there's more to come from Mo if he can get his head together. And we must not forget, this guy had a really rough, like 1.5, 2 years, you know. He didn't click with the coach, and he had a lot of personal problems. Don't forget, his father died at a young age. He was 18 or something, I think, or 19, and he was sick for a long time, and he was taking care of him or was with him a lot, and he had a great click with his father, you know. And losing your father at such a young age, I do not think we should forget that he's still 18 or 19 years old, you know. Not everybody has had to cope with losing a parent. Maybe at our age when we were a little bit older, but at that young of an age, it's very harsh to go through, you know. So let's please not forget that he's still very young, and I think it's a great deal by Overmars giving him a chance. And I read somewhere online that he actually suggested himself that he wanted to start in young Ajax. So this was something that I believe came from Mo himself, and maybe also Ajax had this in mind for him, but he just suggested that. So that tells me also a lot that he's willing to work hard and go for it. And I think there's more to come from him if he just stays focused on football now. And I think it's a great deal. Also a great deal with Tagliafico, Juan, because I'm getting sick a little bit of Barcelona and the way they are handling themselves. They have had mismanagement financially for years now. And what do they think that we are? Like a charity organization or something? Get the fuck out of here, you know? You want to loan Tagliafico, you do not want to pay anything for him, and it's not certain that you want to pay for him after a half year of loan. What are we, a charity organization? You guys screw up with your club. Financially, you screw up big time, and we're supposed to just loan him out? We need him. We need Tagliafico still for the left back position. In my opinion, he's still the best left back we have in our squad. Am I happy with the lack of minutes he's getting from Ten Hag? No. Do I think it's logical that he wants to leave? Yes, especially after this half year. Do you need to grant him this? Maybe if you're thinking about feeling-wise, you know, what he meant for the club. Yes, but how many players have screwed us over just leaving the club without being paid anything, like Onana and other examples in the past? You know, so I do think that you have to see this from a business perspective also. And if he leaves after this season for a reduced fee, that you just get something from him, I think it's better that you can play him this half a year than that you just grant him this wish.
Yeah, okay. Rick, what's your biggest takeaway of the transfer window? I think maybe EyeJax already mentioned a couple of things, but what's yours?
That's great insight about Hatter and EyeJax. I didn't know about the family history, so thanks very much for that. So that obviously gives a bit more dynamic and insight into why Hatter and is already being brought back into the squad. I did look a little bit on his history. Like he was loaned just about immediately out from Juventus to Sampdoria and didn't play a game. So I couldn't get any information on him on that. But that looks, from what you're saying, EyeJax, it looks like it could potentially be a really good signing for us. If he can get himself together, and obviously being back in his home country, close to the family, may turn him around. Tagliafico is quite an interesting one. I know for a fact that he wanted to lead, and we did mention this at the beginning of the season one, that you know, he was probably one that we could probably get money for. But yeah, loan is probably not what we want, especially he being where he is in the squad right now. You know, like if something wanted to happen in that left back position, then you know we need someone who's first team ready, and he is first team ready. So we don't need anyone who's coming up from young Ajax, and then we've got a Champions League game and we're stuck on the left back position. So holding on to Tagliafico until the end of the season at least, where we can get something for him, is worthwhile, and good work for Overmars for sticking to his guns. Broby for me was definitely the signing of the window. It just gives us something other than Halle ball to give in the front three. You know, so unfortunate that he got injured. I was really sad about that, especially like the length of the injury that he's out, 6 to 8 weeks. But for me, Broby coming back into the team, just especially for the Champions League games, it just gives us something else in the front in the front half of the field just to make sure that we've got something other than Haller ball to score goals on.
Yes, absolutely. Absolutely. Guys, something I tweeted on Monday is that once we figured out that we're not going to go for Bergwijn, there were reports coming in that Bergwijn will not be anymore in our reach, so we won't get anyone. I was a bit surprised, not in the fact that we won't get Bergwijn, because there's always a chance we won't, but I was surprised that we then let Neres leave. This is a personal take from me, because I always thought, and it was always communicated from Overmars, but especially from Ten Hag, that we're not going to let a good player leave, especially in January, if we don't get somebody in return. So for me, of course, I understand Neres being with us for a long time, and he was supposed to go in the summer as well. He didn't have a chance, and now getting a 60 million fee for him, Shakhtar, it's amazing, don't get me wrong. But I'm thinking a lot about our depth, you know, our squad depth, and going into the Champions League. And also, we're still playing for everything, basically, this season. Do you guys think I'm overreacting? Or do you guys think, like, no, it's a good thing that we should have had actually somebody come in for Neres? How do you guys see that? Because there's a lot of people worrying already now that if something happens, whether it's Antony or Tadic on the wings, that we might be in trouble. I'll go with Rick first on this one.
I wasn't surprised that Neres went. Yeah. I think the value might have shocked Ajax and jumped at it, knowing that, you know, his value was potentially going down. Yes. So to get 15, 16 million was probably, oh, wow, okay, well, this is the kind of, you know, purchase price that we can't refuse. So we'll let him go. And he did go early, so as well. So whether we were unprepared to, I guess, find a replacement quite quickly, and I know that you mentioned that we'd be going for Bergwijn a few times, but that deal was obviously a work in progress, whereas I believe that the Neres deal kind of came as a bit of a surprise, and the price was too hard to refuse, and so therefore off you go. Yes, it does leave a little bit of a hole on that right wing position. I don't think Taremi is ready to kind of fill in the hole, even though he plays on the left. Where Berghuis playing in the 10 quite a lot, really kind of just, you know, he had to transition from the 10 to the right wing and put Klaassen in, and that may overuse Berghuis. So yes, we do have a little bit of a hole, and we need to kind of maybe develop someone from young Ajax or something just to be on ready for that last 10, 15 minutes, so we don't overuse Antony or Berghuis, in my opinion.
Yeah. EyeJax, what's your take on this?
I do not think you're overreacting, Juan. I think you're playing it safe with what you want and what you think is good quality-wise for the team. But I think we have to trust our team also, you know? And, you know, with signing other players, maybe a backup player, they need time to gel in, especially players from abroad, from Brazil or whatever, you know, if it would have been a Giovanni, for example. They need time to blend in and adjust to the style of play Ajax is playing. And maybe with the Bergwijn, he would have been ready like immediately, because he knows the Eredivisie, he knows the style of play of Ajax. He's been a youth product of Ajax himself before he went to PSV at a young age. So I do think that he would have gelled in easier. But I do think we must not overreact. What I explained earlier in this video is we still have Berghuis that can play on the right wing position. He can do that, I think, sufficient enough to be important for the team. We have a lot of players that can take over the 10 role. And even if you think outside of the box, I'm not opting we should do this. Not like, oh, I have an epiphany, this is the solution. No, at the worst case scenario, if you have to switch within your team, you could even play, for example, Masraoui as a right winger and let Rensch take the right back position. For example, if you do not have another solution left, you know, I still think he has the qualities to even do an average to good job on that position. He's no Berghuis, he's no Antony, but I do think we have seen the link-up play with Antony, that he can go deep, that he can go wide, he can penetrate the box. He does have some qualities. You can finish a ball. So I'm not saying this so that the fans or the people that viewing the video take me the wrong way. No, I'm not saying play Mazraoui there, but in the worst case scenario, you could even think outside of the box and play a player like that, you know, and or a Darami or a Tadic or an Axel van Dongen that plays on the right wing position. May not be the best solution, but it's still a solution.
Yeah. You know, the reason why I'm asking this is not because it's only my opinion. I've been also drawn into this idea that we need depth in the squad, especially in the Champions League. And it's because of what Ten Hag have been saying all this time. Let's not forget, we didn't always qualify for the next rounds of the Champions League in the last years. I remember the last game we played against Valencia. We needed a win. We couldn't push through. We had a couple of critical injuries at the end. Same with Atalanta at the end, also another group stage match. We were so close all the time, and it came down to the last game. And at that time, we had some injuries in the first 11. And Ten Hag referred to that a couple of times. Like, okay, at that time, I had to go back to youth players that were not ready at that time. And I'm just not afraid is a big word, but I don't want history to repeat itself now that we're so far in the Champions League. You know, it would be a waste. Let's not forget last year. I mean, different situation. Onana was, of course, banned, and we had to rely because Stekelenburg was injured on Scherpe, and we know what happened with the Roma game. So if I'm talking about these things, it's more like European. I think domestically we'll be fine. But European, I just want to relive a little bit what we had a couple of years ago. And it's such a shame if you let Neres go, and you mentioned it, EyeJax, Neres is not the same Neres as a couple of years ago, but at least he knows how to play in our system. He has been here for a couple of times. Now you're letting him leave, and we don't have anyone. So now it's up to Ten Hag basically to gel in somebody else that can take over the role. And like Rick said, not overuse the players on the wings.
Can I react to this one?
Of course.
I have two remarks that I want to say on two separate
Go ahead.
Let's begin with Erik ten Hag. Erik ten Hag is stating that he needs a broad selection of players and that he needs backup for doing well in Europe and stuff. Why doesn't he start with himself? Why does he overuse his players so much in so many matches without rotating enough? We have 5 substitutions, and we're dominating a lot of matches within the Eredivisie. Why? We have been talking about this so many times. Why doesn't he rotate more? Because if you want that backup, and if you want to rely on that backup, it's easy to say, yeah, now somebody is injured, so now I need to use youth players. No, if you use your backup players earlier in the season, they're more match fit, they know the system, they played minutes, and then you can use them when it's necessary. But he's not using them enough. Even with Tagliafico, for example, that is already a good player for our squad and already proved himself. He's not even using him. So nice remarks by the coach. I think he's a fantastic coach, but he has to look upon his own tactical way he's handling it. He should rotate more so that the players are ready when they're necessary and needed. And to get back to your subject, let me think. What was it? What was the other point you made?
That we should have quality, I mean, squad depth, because if we don't, we might also find the same situation that we...
Yeah, thank you. Thank you for referring. I now already know what I want to say. You say you want to do well in Europe again, you know, like in the past. But I want to ask you a question. How many first 11 quality players did we have in our Champions League run when we reached the semifinals? Was it as a part of a selection as we have now?
No.
Quality-wise?
No.
So do you think that one extra signing on the right wing position to cover for Neres will make a difference? Because in my opinion, we have a far wider selection than we have ever had in the Champions League run that we reached the semis. And that was sufficient enough already. We had luck that there were not many injuries, but now we have like 4 or 5 backup players on the bench that can easily, if used by the coach and rotated more, could bring some quality. So I'm not that worried. If we remember that season, we had like 12 players, maybe 1 backup player that was sufficient, and that was it. Then the quality would drop immensely.
Yeah, but you know who we substituted to defend against Spurs, right?
Yeah.
Okay. All right, Rick. What's your take? Do you agree with EyeJax? Do you agree with me? What's your point of view on this one?
Look, you both have valid points there. I think it's very hard not to utilize the players that you have in the squad to ready. But Ten Hag has already mentioned, I believe you said it, Juan, a few extra talks ago, that the reason why he sticks with the same squad is he's given other players a chance, but they just haven't actually showed themselves to perform at that level. So when it comes to the Champions League, he doesn't have the confidence in those players at the time. And you're right, EyeJax. He needs to give them more minutes in the Eredivisie for them to be at a level that he can be confident in using them in the Champions League. So it's a bit of a two-sided coin here. I don't think anyone's going to, you're always going to be spinning around in your head going, do I use these players or are they ready? I've got to make them ready. But at the end of the day, you want to get as far as you want in the Champions League, so you've got to stick with your quality players. One injury in some positions may be detrimental to the squad. Some injuries may not be detrimental to the squad because we have quality backup players. Yeah. To be fair, look, it's going to be a tough second half of the season because we're still in a position where we've got Champions League games and cup games. So how Ten Hag uses his squad going forward, I believe, will determine how far we actually get.
Okay, so my final question would be, because that's a perfect ending of our podcast, Rick and EyeJax, you guys both believe that with this squad, this should be a good enough squad if Ten Hag manages this squad well to compete in all three, Cup, Eredivisie, and Champions League, and at the end of the season, we'll be happy with the results. Rick?
I believe so. Look, once Broby comes back and we're not too reliant on Danilo for a backup striker, we've got a lot of depth there. It's just just a matter of overusing quality players and using the players in the right games in the right moments.
And hopefully Kudus as well. Who knows?
Yeah, absolutely.
EyeJax?
Juan, I'm going to be firm with what I'm saying now, because the Eredivisie, nothing less than a championship is enough. If Erik ten Hag with this squad does not secure the championship, it's a failure. Not as a coach, but it's a failure this season. Even with injuries and having to rotate players and maybe taking players from young Ajax that are doing well in the division below the Eredivisie, or even if you have to use the players on the bench, we are still the strongest squad within the Eredivisie. The other teams that are competing with us, they do not have those quality players on the bench to just use. So if they get injuries, it's even more of a problem. So the Eredivisie, nothing less than a championship suffices. The cup, I do not care about it too much. I want to win everything with the club, but if we do not win it, it's not a big deal for me. I'm just hoping we win it, of course, like always. But it's not that big of a deal of a competition. And in the Champions League, I can easily see us go through to the semis. I can see us winning from Benfica, and if we have a great draw in the quarterfinals, you're in the semis already. This team is good enough to win against any team in Europe, aside from maybe the elite teams like Bayern München, Manchester City, that kind of teams, and Chelsea that plays a very nasty kind of style, to play against. Those teams will be difficult. You will not be without a chance against them, but all other teams below that, I think we have great chances against them if the squad stays together and we grow like we always do in the second half of the season. So yes, we can go very far. We could even reach the semis like a few years ago, and if we're lucky, maybe further than that. So yeah, I'm very positive for the ending of the season. And the Eredivisie is a must to win. The cup is a bonus, and I'm thinking we're going far there. And the Champions League is the dark horse, man.